What's up, everyone? What's up, everyone? Happy Wednesday evening. I'm already trying to get to Thursday. Welcome to another live episode of Keys to the Keys. I am Realtor Stephen Taylor, your realtor for all of South Chicagoland, South Side to the South Burbs, and also Northwest Indiana. We're coming live to you on YouTube, Facebook, and also Instagram. We do this every week to give much needed information and insights to the Chicago real estate market, simple tips for first time home buyers all the way to insider information for those savvy investors out there. So be sure to tune in. We're going to do this, like I said, every week, streaming live, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and then we're going to post the recording. So if you come in late or if you miss it, make sure you come and check out the YouTube page. Realtor Stephen Taylor is our handle for everything: Instagram, YouTube. So we're going to post the videos there so you can get all the episodes that you missed. Tonight, we're going to talk back to these buyers. All right. So spring market is here, and we got buyers who I know are itching and interested to figure out, like, what do I need to do to buy a house, especially like in the south suburbs or Chicago. Like, what are the steps? So a lot of these first time home buyers, we're going to talk to you tonight. Big shout out last week. We had a special guest from Excellence Inspection Services. Sean Bacon was here talking about home inspections and also what sellers need to do to prepare their homes to list on the market. And then next week, we're going to be joined by a loan officer from Neighborhood Loans, David Browning. Really excited to talk to him. Number one question I always get is like, hey, what do I need to do to get approved? How much money do I need? So we're going to be talking to David, who works a lot in the Chicago market and also Northwest Indiana. 20 plus years of experience in mortgage lending. So he knows a lot of information and tips that you and your friends and family need to know when it comes to buying a home. So without further ado, never want to be on here too long. People got things to do. Got to get ready for the day on tomorrow. So what we're going to talk about tonight is continuing our from 2 weeks ago when we started talking about these 10 simple steps to buying a home. So we're going to continue that on tonight. And we're going to talk about, hey, what happens? What are the steps, the next 5 or 6 that we need to talk about after you get a house under contract? Okay, so you've been looking for a home, now you got a house under contract. Want to send a special shout out to my client who just got a house under contract today. So happy for her in Olympia Fields. And so we're actually doing these steps like right now. So the stuff that we're going to go over now is what she is going through. So here are the 10 simple steps. We went over the first 5 the week before last. Last week we had Sean on, but we were talking about this the week before last. So number 1, buyer consultation. We talked about pre-approvals and what that means. How do you get pre-approved for a loan? Next week, we're going to go and dive deep more into this topic with David Browning. We talked about showing homes and what it means to actually tour a home. What do we need to be on the lookout for? How do you know, like, when you have the right home? We talked about putting in offers and what that looks like. And then now we're going to pick it up. What happens when you get the offer accepted? So if you missed that episode when we went over 1 through 4, and we touched on 5 as well, go to YouTube, Realtor Stephen Taylor, Stephen, and watch that video and get caught up. All right. So let's keep it going. What happens when you get the offer accepted? So this is a huge milestone. Okay. Huge milestone. A lot of people put in a lot of hours, a lot of work to finally get that house that they want under contract. So what do? Well, we talked about, team members that you need. You need a realtor, you need a home inspector, you need a real estate attorney. And I work with a lot of good real estate attorneys. So if you like, hey, I don't know, like, how do I pick one? I can refer you to some people who I know are responsive, diligent, and will definitely hold you down throughout the process. So your real estate attorney is going to review the purchase contract. So they are your legal representation. They want to make sure everything in the contract is good. They want to start, getting information about that property, the status that it's in, to make sure you're buying a property that's owned by that seller. Okay. So they're going to kind of hit the ground running and doing all things legal. Okay. Getting good information about what to ask the seller. Have there been, any fines and violations on the property? Have you had any claims on that property? So they're working on that. And then you're also going to do this. You're going to give your earnest money deposit. So you got the house under contract, you put in the offer, the seller agreed to accept your offer. You're going to put down an earnest money deposit. What is an earnest money deposit? It's a commitment to purchase deposit. It's a good faith deposit. Okay. It's going to be a deposit that you're going to give to show that, hey, I'm serious about this property. So serious, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you can take this property off the market and dedicate it strictly to me. And if I decide to flake out or move away or just change my mind, then you get to keep that money. Okay. So that's the earnest money deposit. It's a good faith deposit. With the earnest money deposit, typically I recommend like 1% of the purchase price. There's no hard rule to it, but I usually say 1% of the purchase price, or no less than $1,000. Okay, there's again not a hard rule. The more money that you put up for your earnest money deposit, the stronger your offer can look. Okay, keep in mind that this earnest money is not extra money. It's not extra funds. These are funds that are going to be applied to your closing funds. Okay, so your down payment, your closing costs. So basically, it's going to be held until you're ready to close. Okay, and we'll talk about how you can get that money back if you do decide to cancel under the terms of the contract. Okay. Yeah, question. Do I get it back? Yep. We're going to talk about that. And actually, this next slide is one way that you can get it back when we talk about home inspection. So when you put a house under contract, you're going to get you're going to have a home inspection. Okay. You're going to have a licensed home inspector go through that property, comb through all the ins and outs, every nook and cranny about that property. We're talking about the roof, the plumbing, the electrical, the foundation, all the outlets working? Is there any sign of flooding or water damage? Looking at the exterior of the house, how's the garage? How are the gutters? They're going to go and give you a very exhaustive and detailed report about the house. Okay. I also recommend getting a home inspector like Sean from last week, who, especially if you're a first-time home buyer, who will actually walk with you through that house and explain like the functions of the house. Okay. It's one thing to not just know what's wrong with the house, but you might not know, like, hey, how if a pipe bursts or something, how do I shut off the water? Well, hey, here's the main shutoff valve. Or, how do I maintain my furnace? Like, how do I change the furnace filters? A lot of people have never owned a home. They've just been renting their whole lives, and they never had to worry about a lot of these different things. So you want a home inspector that's going to educate you too about home ownership and the ins and outs of that particular home, which is about to be your home. So you'll know how to handle different situations and scenarios. Okay. So you're going to have that home inspection. You're going to get a very detailed list of everything that's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly with that property. So let's say you find something that's a deal breaker. Actually, I had a client a few weeks ago who we inspected the house and found out that it had some really bad foundation issues. Well, guess what? If you find that that property is not safe and functioning to your liking, right? It has to be a good reason, not just because, oh, I don't like the color of the cabinets no more, right? There has to be something that's really wrong with that property that the inspector finds. You can cancel that contract. And like the question was, how do I get my earnest money back? That's the way that you can get your earnest money. It's a home inspection contingency. Okay. So like my client who just got under contract today, we're going to have 5 to 10 business days to get that home inspection done. And if we find something seriously wrong with that property, then she can cancel it and get her earnest money back. Okay. I want to show you a few pictures too. This is Sean and I at an inspection not too long ago. This was in East Hazel Crest. So he's inspecting the roof. And if you can see, he has his drone looking at the roof. All right, it's a lot safer for him to take pictures with the drone. So we do a roof inspection. Okay, I mentioned electrical, like we're taking the panel, off the panel box and making sure that everything looks in order and up to code there. So we're taking a look at the electrical. What about get into that crawl space? I don't know about y'all. I don't like going into crawl spaces, but your inspector, and my boy Sean here, he's going to get in that crawl space and he's going to, do a thorough inspection there. So I highly recommend that you get a home inspection and you get a good home inspector, like I said, who's not just going to, you know, go through the house and find the issues, but who's also going to educate you about the process. Okay. So that's a very important step to make sure that home is in good condition before we move on. Okay. So after we get the home inspection, we're going to get this thing called an appraisal done. An appraisal. Okay. What is an appraisal? An appraisal is conducted by an appraiser, okay, and their job is to go out and determine the value of the home that you are buying. They want to find the value of that particular home. Okay, so why do you need this? Well, you want to make sure that you're not paying more for the house than what it's worth. Okay, and guess who else doesn't want you to pay more for that house than what it's worth? The bank. That's right. So the bank requires you to get an appraisal because they want to make sure you're not overpaying because they have interest in that house too. Let's say something happens and you walk away from the house. Well, the bank, they've lent hundreds of thousands of dollars on that house. So they get it back. They want to make sure that they actually have something that's worth what it says it is. Okay. So the bank requires it to get the loan. You get the appraisal done, and that appraiser is going to go out, take measurements, take pictures, look at other homes that have sold that are like that house, and they're going to determine the value of the house. So you might be asking, okay, Stephen, what happens if it appraises for more than what I have it under contract for? Let's say I offered 300,000 and the appraisal comes back and says, hey, this house is actually worth 320,000. Well, guess what? You got a deal. Okay. You got a deal. You got a house that's worth 320 for 300,000. All right. So congratulations. What happens if you put an offer on this house and you got it under contract for 300,000, but the appraiser says, looks like this thing is only worth 290,000. What happens then? Well, in that case, we have to go back to the seller and we're saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we need you to either lower this price to 290 or we might have to cancel this contract and get that earnest money back. Okay. The seller might say, hey, we want you to, pay the difference, or we want you to meet us halfway. So there are further negotiations that are done. Okay. If the appraisal does not meet that contract price. So you can pay the difference, you can meet them halfway, you can figure some other things out. Agents get involved, attorneys get involved. But typically, if I'm representing a buyer, I'm really pushing, for that seller to honor that appraisal and say, hey, this is what it's worth. This third party appraisal found this and came to this conclusion. We don't want to pay more than what it's worth. So, definitely honor that. Okay. So we got to get the appraisal done. What happens after the home inspection and the appraisal? Well, during this entire time, you're going to be getting approved for the loan. It's the loan approval. So we talked about a pre-approval, right? Last time we talked about the steps. Now we're talking about a loan approval. So once the property is under contract, your loan officer and team will work with you on submitting the proper documentation the lender needs to approve your loan. Y'all, they gonna want everything from you. They want to know everything. Okay. They need bank statements. The lender, this is your mortgage lender, right? To approve you for the loan. They need bank statements. They need tax returns. They need W-2s. They need your mama maiden name and your blood type. Oh, that's a joke. That's a joke. All right. But they want a lot of information. And sometimes clients can get kind of frustrated because they're like, hey, I gave them this. And now they're saying they need the newest one. I gave them, the last bank statement, but now they're saying, well, we need the newest bank statement. So what I encourage people to do, one, during that time is to be patient and know that your loan officer is on the side. They want you to get that house, okay? But they need the proper documentation, they need the right information to get it passed through what's called underwriting, okay? So they're on your side, they're on your team. They need to know everything about you, okay? They're giving you a lot of money, so they want to make sure that you qualify for this particular loan. Number two, during this loan approval process, you have to be very careful with your finances. And I'm pretty sure David, will talk about this next week. You got to be very careful with your finances. This can be a tedious process where much patience and follow through is needed on your end. What do I mean? When you're getting approved for a loan, you got a house under contract. You do not want to do anything that will tamper with your credit score or your debt to income ratio. Okay. So it is not the right time to go out and try to get a car note and get that new car. You like, man, I want new everything. I'm getting a new house. I want a new car. I need new everything. Not the right time. It's not the right time. You saying like, oh, hey, I know I'm good. I know my money's good. I got my down payment. I know I know everything is lined up. It's not the right time to say, I'm good. Let me go ahead and get this furniture. I want new furniture. It's a new house. It's only right that we get new furniture. It's not the right time to go down to the furniture store and open up a credit line to purchase a new bedroom and living room set. Okay. Not the right time. What you're doing during that loan approval time, from the time that you get that house on the contract, really the time you get the pre-approval, okay? When you start looking for a house, everything has to be like copacetic. I'm talking make sure all your bills are paid on time. Okay. If you got to do some automatic, payments and drafts, you got to do what you got to do. Okay. Everything needs to be paid on time. We're not going to be running up credit cards. We're not going to be applying for new loans and new lines of credit, new debt. We got to keep everything calm and everything the same until you get through the loan approval. And then at that time, go for that car, go for the furniture, or what have you, because it's so much easier to get approved for a car and some furniture than it is to buy a house. Okay. And I've seen it backfire on people. I've seen people make some really bad, decisions and some mistakes that messed up their credit, and they had to get their credit, run again, or, they had to provide some, more documentation, and they realized that, hey, it fell below the, mandatory minimums and they no longer qualified. So during that time, especially when you get that house under contract, through the time when you close on that house, you want to make sure that you are protecting your credit, protecting your debt, protecting your income. It's not the right time to go cuss out your boss. Okay. It's not the right time to cut out your boss when you get in the house, because if you lose your job, I've seen this happen multiple times too. Like people lose their job or leave their job, the lender finds out and they lose the house. Okay. So we got to keep everything conservative, keep everything intact, keep everything tight until you close on the house. So we got the offer accepted, we got the home inspection. The appraiser came through and said, hey, this house is worth what you have it under contract for. We talked about the loan approval, getting the lender, your mortgage lender, all the documents you need to get it approved. And next we have the closing day, So this is the day that you become a homeowner, okay? That the keys become yours. So what we need to do first, we need to go back and walk through that house. Okay, remember, going back to our steps here, we got the offer accepted. We did the home inspection within the first 2 weeks. We're not actually there for the appraisal. Okay. And so from the time of the home inspection, it could be a few weeks or a month or longer, depending on how long it takes you to get approved for the loan, since we've been in the house, like the last time we've been in the house with the home inspection. So what do we need to do? We need to do what's called a final walkthrough. Okay. We need to do a final walkthrough. During that final walkthrough, we're going to go back to the home. We're going to walk through. We're going to do. It's not as intense as a home inspection. It's just me, your agent, and you walking through the house. But we're going to check everything, making sure all the appliances working. We're going to make sure that there has been no excessive damage to the house since we've been there. Have there been any new leaks? Is all the plumbing working? All the faucets work? Are the light switches, are all of them working? So we're going to make sure that everything is intact with that house before we close on it. Because in real estate, when you buy homes, there is no, there are no refunds on homes. When it's yours and you sign that paperwork, it's yours. There's no refunds, there's no warranties, there's no take backs after you get it. So we'll go through the house, we'll do a walkthrough, we'll check everything to make sure everything's done. We're also checking to see if things that the seller, said they were going to repair are actually repaired. And I didn't talk about that when you do the home inspection. One option is if you do the home inspection, you find things that are wrong, you can walk, or you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I need this repaired. Or you can negotiate for them to give you credits, money at closing, to repair it yourself. Okay, so that's very important too, that that we didn't talk about. During the home inspection, you find issues, you can negotiate for the seller to repair that or give you credits towards closing that will be sufficient enough for you to make those repairs. So let's say that the seller did have to repair some things. Well, when we go back and do that walkthrough, we're going to make sure that it actually was repaired like they said they did. Okay. So after the walkthrough, next we're going to meet at a designated location. It's usually a title company. Title companies handle the transfer of properties. You'll fill out a lot of paperwork from title documents and loan documents, and finally you get those keys. And the last step is celebrating. Okay, you are a new homeowner. You put in the work, you kept the faith, you made it to the finish line. And people say, like, Stephen, why would you include celebration as a step? Because I think it's important to really look back at the work that you put in, not even when you started looking for a home, even before then, because home ownership is one of those things that so many people dream about, they long for, they hope for. And I think it's a great opportunity to celebrate and look at your accomplishments of being a homeowner. The work that you put in to get your credit right, the work that you put in to save money up, the work that you put in to go look for the house and put in offers, and maybe you got some no's along the way, but you stayed at it and you kept that energy, you kept that faith, and finally you are a homeowner. You have a place to call your own, like it is yours. Like that's worth celebrating. That's worth acknowledging. That's worth taking a moment to pause and being grateful. And it's also worth throwing like a housewarming and inviting people over and letting your family and friends, see your new home and celebrate. Just make sure you invite your realtor, me, so I can come and eat good and celebrate as well. Okay. So those are the 10 steps of the home buying process. Consult with the realtor, get pre-approved, go look at a bunch of homes, figure out what you like, what you dislike. Hey, you got to put in the offers. Can't just look. Shooters got to shoot, right? Put in the offers, you get it accepted, conduct your home inspection, appraisal, the loan approval process, the closing day, and finally celebrating. All right. So those are the 10 simple steps. If you have questions or you want to know more about these simple steps, I need you to get in contact with me. Okay. So QR code is on the screen. However you're following me, feel free to message me on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. We'd love to connect with you. If you're in the Chicago market, especially South Chicagoland, South Side, South Suburbs, Northwest Indiana, if you're looking to buy a home there, like let's talk. Let's sit down in person or virtual, and let's talk about your questions. Let's talk about where you are, how you can prepare, and how you can actually go through these steps to become a homeowner. Thanks for joining us tonight. Next week, we're going to have special guest David Browning. He's a loan officer from Neighborhood Loans. He'll be with us talking about how much money do I really need to buy a house? Like, that's the number one question. Like, what kind of funds do I need? I know this is like tax refund time and people got a little extra change and they thinking like, is this enough to buy a house? Like, I know they talk about some grants and, and different loan programs and all this money and stuff that I'm hearing about people talk about on Instagram and TikTok. Like, is that true? Join us next week, Wednesday, 7:30. And we will talk about all these issues and more and these questions with loan officer David Browning. So see you next week. Like I said, if you joined in late and you want to catch the recordings, it will be on YouTube, Realtor Stephen Taylor. Until then, keys to the keys.